Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am here with kind of a new friend of mine, I would say. We have only known each other for a few months and only online through the magic of LinkedIn, but we have already bonded very, very closely. And so today I am very excited and very grateful to be here with Ross Swan. Hi, Ross. Very warm welcome to Singapore.
How are you, Michaela? Yes.
Yes. Ross is sitting in Singapore. I'm here down in the south of England. Actually, by the way, it's like really nice because we have beautiful weather. In Singapore, you have beautiful weather all the time. So I'm glad that I'm talking to you.
Yeah, we're actually in
the same
sync.
Weather.
Our weather's sort of in sync. Maybe not as humid as here.
Yeah.
But yes, good weather. You're not in the cold and freezing, and I'm not in the heat and sweating.
Yeah.
We're both just in the heat, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just introduce you a little bit, Swan, Ross, before I pass over to you. So Ross is a soul-inspired leadership coach, and this is where we really connected to start with, because my audience knows that I talk about conscious leadership and soul-inspired conscious leadership. We are talking the same language. That's why we kind of clicked immediately as we started talking together. You're also an executive coach. You've been in the game for a very long time. You have just started a new role of being a managing director. I made a note in here at FC Global Strategies, based in
it's a good little project to be working on. Yes.
Yeah, loads of stuff going on. And you're also an advisory board member at Asian Coaching Network. And I'm sure you're many more things apart from that as well. But obviously your life has been connected with coaching, being a coach, leading leadership programs, working with leaders for many years. And so thank you so very much, Ross, for giving me your time, being here with me. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. And I will pass over to you. What would you like to tell our audience about yourself? Just a little bit in short about your journey, maybe, and about why is soul-inspired leadership so important for you. So over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll preface a little bit of the journey because I'm in Singapore with a very broad Australian accent.
Yes, for people that don't understand, just let me know.
Definitely not a Singaporean accent. It's definitely not. No. Born and bred in Queensland in Australia, near Brisbane. Basically spent 30 odd years in corporate life in Australia, in financial services. And progressively over that time, I started to see the impact that good leaders have on staff and their lives, and not so good leaders. Leadership challenged people and the influence they have on people and their lives. And it started me to go towards the fact that I'd love to be coaching, because I used to enjoy helping my fellow peers, and my boss at the time, this Australian general manager of a financial services company I was working with, I was a regional head, and he used to use me all over Australia to help with some of these people issues in the senior management. So I started to enjoy it and just went that way. When he retired, I left us the same time, and I went out as a coach. And it was a bit of a struggle in Australia, because everyone thought, oh, he's a financial services guy. I can ask him about banking. What would he know about coaching, right? So I moved to Singapore to go somewhere where they didn't have that understanding or knowing about me, so they didn't put me in a box, which was good, but at the same time it meant I didn't know anyone. So it started hard. So that's the story that led me to coaching. And just over the years, I developed my coaching business. So that's been 20 years now. Why soul inspired? Over the period, when I started to coach people, and you start to see what's important, and at the end of the day, for them to want to get better as a leader, they had to get back to within themselves, to really what's important to their inner being. The people I've coached, and I've coached quite a few with what they say remedial reasons, right? Where we're a board or the CEO or someone very senior said, can you coach this person because things aren't working out well, staff are a bit upset, blah, blah, blah. There's a big long list. So, and when you start talking to these people, getting to know them more, you're starting to realize what's causing it. And quite often it's that living in their headspace. It's competing with other people. either feeling insecure about themselves or feeling superior about themselves against others. But it's all about comparing themselves. And so they're actually playing a game, a political game of one-upmanship in a sense. And that's what causes the problem. So when you get to people to really understand what's within them and what they really want to do, what impact do they want to make, then you could start to work with them and they could start to blossom. Others do it because they've taught themselves that already, and I'm coaching them for just transitional work or just improving them, right? Get some really good leaders who approach me and say, can you help me? They don't probably need much help, but the fact is that's why they don't need much, because they're always looking to get better in their leadership. But getting back to the remedial ones, it's that you've got to help them connect where the others already had connected. And they wouldn't necessarily know they're connected, and therefore never use the name. I never used the name Soul Inspired 10 years ago. People think I'm some sort of, I won't go into it, but some
woo-woo.
sort of woo-woo. That was the word I was trying to think of.
That's the word I always use, woo-woo.
That's the woo-woo.
For when people talk about Mike.
No, even took them there, right?
Yeah.
Even though or they were talking about these things, but they didn't know it was a woo-woo. It was just them, right?
Yeah.
They just worked it out. Thanks for that, Phil. I could not think of it. But over probably the last 10 years, probably the last 5 years, I've started using the name more because people are starting to understand that that's what we should be doing. And see, the big word is you need to be a servant leader or need to be an authentic leader. Well, that's really what I'm talking about. The authenticity of self, being the real inner you. That's soul inspired. That's the inner heart. That's leading from the heart, the inner you.
Yeah.
And that's how it's evolved. And I think the last couple of years with the COVID situation, and things are a bit more delicate. Leaders are starting to realize that they need to be more attached and connected with people, and their own reflection has helped them get there. I just give you one more example. I had a CEO of a business. It's growing from a small. It's on the upward spiral. Contact me and said, "Can you come along and help me?" And the reason why he contacted me is because it's so inspired. He said, "I've got to do this. I know I've got to do it. I know I've got to get closer to myself. I think I do it okay," and he does. But it's the fact that I like what you're saying, and I know that's the new way of leading. So where that wouldn't happen 5 years ago, that's the point I'm making. So you get a lot more people more conscious of it and actually respond to it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, quite a journey, and for all of us that are functioning in this space and have got many years of experience leading our own teams and working in the corporate world, and kind of have seen loads of changes, have seen great leaders, have seen really bad leaders, us being leaders, starting really wobbly leaders and trying to find our own ways, and then our own evolvement and evolution and stuff like that. It is just a beautiful journey. But I so resonate with what you're saying about people really truly waking up to what the hell is actually going on in here.
And
I mean, this, like the way that I see it with my clients and with all the conversations I'm having, this is not just anymore just a little talk about, oh yeah, we should be doing this or we should be doing that. Like, people are seriously waking up to, who am I? And you were talking about being, and I will ask you a question about that in a second. Who am I? And actually, who do I want to be? And from what place do I want to lead, and why I want to do that? Simon Sinek obviously talking about why many, many years ago. But it's not only about why, it's as well about who is showing up. Who am I as a person? And as I say, it's not just chit chat anymore. People are stopping, taking time, and really going inward, trying to understand, who am I? How do I behave a certain way? How do I perceive the world a certain way? How do I exist a certain way? And is this actually the way that I want to be?
That's
And is this
right.
the life that I want to have? And is this the way
Oh,
that I lead?
yeah.
So, and this is what I love about what you said. It's so fresh. It's still so delicate. So yes, there are many people that are still considering this to be a woo-woo. And there are also many people that are secretly really interested, but they are still ashamed to admit it.
Yeah, and you'll get that. Actually, you'll get that. It's funny. The bigger the company, you're more likely to get that because, you know, the smaller company like this the guy's an example. He's his own boss and he tends to influence the culture. Getting the bigger ones, it's the older cultures, the older way of doing things and perceiving things and how you get on in management in that sort of organization. It's changing, but very slowly. But I'll just give you one thing. When you were talking there, I just thought of that. One of the things that I used to say with the executives is, and I ask them the question, I say, so if I come in and ask any of your staff here to describe you as a leader, what do you want them to be saying? See, this takes them to the being, because they don't, a lot of them, it's funny that it really goes, oh, I want them to be saying, oh, you know, makes decisions, you know, so it's all the surface stuff, right? Does this, and then I say, bearing in mind, if you leave, the only things they'll ever remember you about is how you made them feel. Then they think, like some have already know that, but others then go, yeah, you're right. I said, you think back of all your leaders, all the people who have managed you over the years, what are you remembering? And they all know how they made them feel. So I said, so bearing in mind, now giving me how do you want people to describe you, particularly after you've gone? And I've never had anyone yet say to me, I want to be known as the biggest idiot or the biggest tyrant that's ever walked, and that I shook people in their boots. It's always nice words. When they get to this, so I'm taking them to their heart. This is now their heart, because it's feeling words, right? Oh, okay. So then they write nice things. I say, now, it doesn't happen by chance. This is not some miracle that you press a magic wand and voila, they'll call you by that. They'll say this. What have you got to do every day, 7 days a week, day in, day out, in order for those people to describe you the way you want to be described? Ah, yeah. And then we get to the behaviors they need to display day in, day out. Some love it and lap it up. Others struggle and say it's too hard, but they try. And long as they're trying, they get there. Slowly but surely. It won't be perfect. None of them are perfect because they're human, but they at least heading on the right way. So that again, that's about the being. It's how do you want to show up? How do you want people to actually, how do you make people, you know, what do you want them to be saying? You know what I mean? Like when they get into those connecting words and then they start to really understand, it's about impact. I said, yeah.
Yeah. I think an important thing here as you're talking and I'm listening to you, I think important thing here for me, what comes up is to recognize one thing though, and that is, how do you want people to remember? So how do you want people to remember you? And then there are many people that want to, of course, be remembered as great leaders. And then they start portraying these behaviors, but those behaviors are coming from the place of people pleasing, or from the need of being liked.
That's right.
Which is not an authentic way of showing up. This is coming from the place of fear. So just to clarify, what you're talking about for our audience is coming from the place of authenticity, showing up as a human being to a human being, coming from the heart, not coming from the place of ego and just being a great leader because I want to be liked and I want to please people.
Yeah, because one of the key things, Michaela, is you've got to connect with people. Yeah. And you only connect with heart. If you connect with people head to head, that becomes a debate. That's where we have it's all about all the waffle and the words, but heart to heart, you've got to understand, and they get to that. Yeah. They get to that, and if they don't quite, then you help them get to there by asking those exact questions. Those points you're just exactly saying. For what reason are you doing this? How can you do this consistently? So what's your motivation? because I was asking those questions, and that's what gets them. They start to really, so it's coming from the heart. They're not thinking, well, I've got to be known as an empathetic leader, so that's how I want to be described. I said, no, what do you got to do every day in order for them to call you as someone who's being very empathetic? What exactly you got to do? But at the same time, people, it's funny, staff don't want them to be weak and say yes to everything they demand. They want to respect because they want you to make proper business decisions. It's funny. So when you have those conversations, they start to get the balance between the people and, yes, the process, that we've got to have a good business so they've still got a job tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good point, because when we talk about the woo-woo stuff, right, I think people very often think, particularly in the business community and corporate communities, that when we come from the place of heart, or when we come from the place of soul, that we are just going to all turn into the hippie kind of community.
That's right. And we have how are we going to make money out of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Just peace, brother.
Exactly. And it's important to understand that what we are talking in here, it's not either you've been so inspired or making money. Like, we're talking about both in here, and we're talking about money is absolutely important, because money brings means to make more impact, to make, bring more purpose out, depending on what you do. So we're talking here about profitable businesses making more money, but making it from the place of your heart instead of from here, because this is where all the trouble happens. So you're not telling people to go and hug each other and just, sing Kumbaya, which is nothing wrong with that, and we love doing that. But it's all in the business. It's also about combining it with making money.
It's how you combine. It's about the balance. So and I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be exact percentage, but say 50% people, 50% process or task.
Yeah.
In other words, you've got to run a profitable business in order for that business to employ those people, so they've got some stability and got security. Yeah. No different to a not-for-profit. You still got to make money within the not-for-profit in order to spend it on people's needs. You can't just spend money; it'll all disappear, right? You've got to run things and get and do both. That's right.
Absolutely, yeah. So I always like to say it's a being, doing, and the result. So who are we being? So if you are talking about leadership, like, who are you being as a leader from that place of being, which you choose, which you create, or we create ourselves? It's not, we create it consciously, then we start taking actions, or from that place, we start leading the teams, we start leading ourselves, and then that brings results. I would like to bridge a little bit, Ross, in here too, because you spoke about competing, comparing ourselves. Again, when we talk about particularly large companies, where it's corporations, where it's so much pressure on everybody to perform. And let's be honest, yes, there is a lot of lovely talk about this, how things should be. And this is, this is our slogan of how we lead. But really, when we go to the real life, there is still a lot of competition. There is still a lot of pressure on performance. And that it's really coming from the place of fear. And, as you know, I work with clients, I work with leaders and business owners on their imposter syndrome, which for me is a huge part of being and understanding who am I as a conscious leader. Because as we are talking about in here, if I don't understand myself inside, in my being, and if I don't understand why I behave certain way, why do I show up in a certain way, why do I please people constantly, for example, why am I scared to go to the meetings and speak up, for example, why I don't want to, I don't know, I just don't want to admit that I'm having a problem. This is for me, and I just been pulled back constantly to talk with the individuals and helping them to see who they are. And the imposter syndrome is just huge kind of catalyst for people to start waking up to, who am I actually being? Because once they start looking at those patterns and those fears that are driving them in a certain way, they go like, hang on a second, this just does not feel right. So if I go beyond that, who am I beyond those patterns? So how do you see imposter syndrome? I'm sure you've come across a lot of people with imposter syndrome in those many years. And how do you relate that to soul-inspired leadership?
Well, yes. I mean, I love your passion with this, this imposter syndrome. But it's I've had some challenges over the years with people where that's been a major issue. And there again, it's in the head, because all you're doing is comparing yourself. Either you don't feel yourself you're good enough, or you feel as though that you're better than everyone else. And you're probably an imposter there, because at the end of the day, you're not better and you're not worse.
Mm.
We're all souls in this world, and we're all pretty equal within the souls. It's when we get into our head, we start to see the differences and comparisons more so. And I think it's, at the end of the day, it's particularly the insecurities. I see it's probably the most common. And to overcompensate the insecurity, then you can be quite arrogant, because you're overcompensating. It's the balance. It's the basically the the paradoxical leadership sort of, or the what's the word? Not behavior. It's more like the, let's just say that it's a paradox behavior, being underconfident and overconfident. And if you're underconfident, quite often you'll become overconfident in showing everyone else that you're okay, when really you're so insecure.
Yeah.
And under pressure, then you revert. And it's the old saying, which is an old British saying, actually. I think it's Australian, but I think it's an old English saying, is your bark is worse than your bite. And that means that you're an imposter, because you're barking at people in theory. And under pressure, you've got no bite at all. You become weak and mild, and you can't do anything. It's because up one end, you're not, and under pressure, you revert to the other. It's human behavior. And if you're very insecure all your time, then under pressure, you'll come and bite someone's head off. Oh, what happened to that person? What happened to them today, right? That's either way, you're either end of the spectrum, right? The key is to be more balanced. And that's where I try to take people.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you're trying to be talking about being an imposter, you start to help them understand that it's okay if you can't do that. It's okay to feel vulnerable. You don't have to be better than everyone else. It's okay. Just stick within yourself, because your soul has some of the greatest strength that you'll ever have. Your head has no strength. Unless you convince yourself, but there again, then you'll convince yourself it has, then you'll convince yourself it hasn't. Forget that. The only real thing that knows what you can do is your heart, your soul, right? And that's where we're all equal. Our brain just tells us otherwise.
Yeah.
Or we're telling our brain or whatever, but that's where your strength is.
Yeah.
That's where you can admit you're vulnerable, but that doesn't matter, because you know you're going to be tough enough to get through that.
Yeah, beautifully said. So definitely, you know, that because imposter syndrome is all in here, as you said, right? It's just those never-ending thoughts, the inner critic, just going on and on and on. And so I used to struggle with massive imposter syndrome. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because about 5 years I was crippling, and you know, I always appeared to be so confident, like I had it. You know, I had it mastered to the T. I was the best actress in the world. And inside, I was just absolutely, I couldn't function. Literally, I just couldn't function inside. So what starts happening with the imposter syndrome, as you said, the drop into the heart for people that are super successful, or they appear to be super successful and confident on the outside. Very often these people that look so confident, they are the ones that struggle with that internal inner not having confidence in themselves. That's the paradox that you are talking about. And what comes up is, once we allow ourselves to start going into our being, start connecting with that heart, with that soul, we start seeing and unpacking, where does this fear of being vulnerable actually come from? And you and I, we know that this is all stored in our subconscious mind, and all these kind of fears and the things that we are going through.
Data points.
coming from our childhood. And they are just running our life without us actually realizing it. So we are not going to work it out from here. We can't think our way out of imposter syndrome, because this is where the problem is. And this is when the work that you do and I do, being soul inspired and being conscious, you know, inspired, just must go beyond that conscious thinking mind. Otherwise, we're just not going to create a different result, and we're not going to feel better about ourselves, whether as humans, whether as leaders, and we're not going to have a greater impact on our teams as well. So it's quite complex, and people are maybe sometimes scared of this work. I was, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a step-by-step, little, day-by-day collaboration, cooperation with my coach, like you or me, just to say to people, it's okay, you've got this.
That's right. That's right.
Don't worry, we're not going to jump the cliff, and we don't want you to go and start behaving like you are super vulnerable and just showing up. This is such a gentle, beautiful work when you start unpacking and learning what is sitting in here.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not a total fix in 24 hours.
No.
It's not take a couple of aspirin and go home and all will be good. It's just basically you're just working through it and piece. You're just peeling off an onion to get that inner soul, and you work back the layers and you work it at your own pace. But I'm here to help you. I'm here to sort of just be that extra confidence voice around you to help lead you through that. And other people are really struggle with it. And I've had, over the years, I must admit, I've had a few people reduce to tears because I can see the unpacking as it's happening. And that's both genders. It's not, you know what I mean? Like it
100%.
absolutely no different. And it's just them getting rid of some of those emotions, and usually it'll come back to some issue or a series of issues.
Yeah.
That's happened in their life over time. And just let that happen, and they're basically unpacking it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, it makes a big difference to their lives, and they start to build, and they build on it. And they're just becoming a stronger person inside. And they become the more they do it, or the more they work on it, the more peaceful they become.
Yeah.
And all the head noise disappears.
Yeah. And you start experiencing joy again. You're just having joy.
And that's right. It just, because you start to see the good side of things rather than the head comes in, but it's just such a more peaceful existence.
Yeah.
And you just see the brighter side of things because it's bringing out your own light.
Yeah.
Darkness tends to disappear a bit more.
Yeah. Ross, is it in Singapore, in the coaching community, as you are the sitting on the board there of in a coaching?
No, the particular coaching network's out of India.
Okay.
It's just it's just a network that I don't get involved that much. They just let me, we connect every now and again, but yeah.
But from what you see in Singapore, what are the conversations in the coaching community when it comes to soul-inspired or conscious leadership? Is there more focus on strengthening these conversations, or?
I think it is. I think there again that when they're saying the worm has turned to the right direction.
Yeah.
And when you say, I don't think any country's any quicker than faster than others, some would be faster than some countries because the exposure to coaching is still a bit not a big take up. It's getting there, but slowly. And I think the more aligned you are of chatting to a coach or talking, the more aligned you are to heading towards that conscious leadership, because people need to know. Some people sort of say, well, how do I get to that? What does that mean? And just they have a feeling that they just want to move, so they think, oh, I'd be great to get a support. No different when you get a feeling and you just think, I need to go and see anyone, a doctor or anything. You sometimes get a feeling, I better go, right? And so you go, right? So the people tend to say, I need to connect, and just so I can talk things through. That's it. And I think it's Singapore. I know quite a few coaches now. I wouldn't say that'd be everyone, but mostly, and now would say that it's moving slowly but surely to that direction. Some companies, it's rapid. Other companies, not so much, right? So, depending on the size, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe not, I won't go into, what are these US based or a European based or Asian based, bit of a mixture. It's still a big mixture.
Yeah. I am extremely excited about seeing some large corporations, like really large corporations, to really start opening up this conversation. You know, again, not just that there's a tick box anymore, but I see a real shift in willingness. Very careful, you know, very gentle. But there is that curiosity definitely that has started opening up, and that's I am a huge believer that we are going through a massive transformation as a human species when we are really opening up to, you know, our consciousness is opening up as a collective, and I'm very proud that I can be part of that opening up, and I'm very happy to have people like you in my life that we can have these fantastic conversations together.
And there's like when you say that there is a shift, you got to, when we go back, I don't know, 50, even 100 years, 200 years, when the world, the industrialized world started, and we start to having organizations sort of established rather than just subsistence farming or whatever we were having many centuries ago. But there again, those organizations are all about employing people who are uneducated, because the educated were the few, and had the money because they were the people who had the money to educate, and the thing goes on, right? So we have a lot of people who are uneducated, but they're doing things that they're actually paid for their labor, which means you get told what to do. You go and dig that hole there. Don't do this. You know, reap those ears off the wheat or whatever it is, right? They're all told. But as we progress, those things, the world's changing now. We still have, I guess, manufacturing. We still have major, and the farms are quite major now, but most of it's mechanized, right? So, but when you get to the corporate world now, it's not so much, we're not paying for someone's labor. And see, that was telling people what to do and micromanaging, because you had to tell them what to do. They didn't know, they weren't educated. Now we're buying people's inventiveness, their innovation, what their mind can bring to the table. We don't need their labor so much in that physical labor. So you've got to connect with people in a different way. So it is evolving anyway, but with this old mindset of the old micromanage, tell people what to do, and what we had to do is now changing so rapidly. Leadership hadn't caught up, and that was the problem, right? We're paying money for people. We're paying for buying their brain. We want their brain, right, to innovate. We're paying money for it. Then we go and tell them what to do. It doesn't make sense. So, and I think that was evolving away from that, but I think COVID has just sped the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And it's just put it on overdrive a little bit. And I thought it might slow down after, but I don't think it has. I think it's not rapidly moving, but it's heading on this faster pace than what it was. And I think it'll actually rapidly move as we progress, because people realize the only way we can keep up to it, because it's an innovative world now. It used to be the learning organization in the 90s to the knowledge base knowledge base company, and it's not knowledge anymore, because with Chatbox that's already there. So the only reason why you've got staff now, AI replaces everything else, is the creativity, innovation. So that we now have the innovative economy. And so the only way you can connect with intelligent people and you want the innovation, you've got to connect with them on a human-to-human basis. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
I think, well, that's that sort of getting back to the more technical origin, but I think humans with the COVID has actually connected people, and because it helped people connect with even themselves.
Yeah.
Because everyone felt vulnerable.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when you're a senior executive and you're an engineer, and it doesn't matter, because a lot of the companies felt they were vulnerable, right? The fact they weren't, there's a lot of organizations just were vulnerable, and some are coming out and some are not coming out so well. So it was a whole aspect that drove executives down to the point where they actually felt vulnerable, because it wasn't just themselves personally, it was the industry they were in. You know, they were part of it as well. It was becoming vulnerable, like the airline industry, the oil and gas, like this, the list goes on. The big players all went straight. So I'm getting a long-winded answer, but
no, it's good.
It's just, and that's what's compounded everything up.
Yeah.
But as we move out of it, we've got to connect with people on a one-to-one, impactful way, because you're paying for their intellect, not their brawn, basically. That's why the heart-to-heart is the important issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Ross, if people want to work with you, do you only work with teams, or do you work on one-on-one basis as well? How do you work?
Both. I've worked with quite a few teams. Most times it's one-on-one, and then at the same time, they end up working with that team, the person's team. And could be two teams down, it could be up. Like, it's just bit of a mixture, really. It's you work on a project. Sometimes I work on a project and it involves teams, and you know, the project.
So if somebody wanted to contact you, they can, as they are watching this interview and they would like to connect with you and just have a conversation, you will work with them on one-on-one basis.
Yes, and most of my clients would be one-on-one, and then it balloons out from there if and when they want to. That doesn't necessarily mean that, but or I might get some other people in to help with some other parts of the team. Some of the people I know, disciples, people like you. I might say, Michaela, can you help me there? There's a couple with some serious issues that I think you'd be good for. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, collaboration, obviously.
Always.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we're coming to the end of our time together. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we wrap up? What's coming to mind, if any?
The only thing is, I've probably already said it, is that just spend time with yourself. Give yourself some time to be with yourself and just be. Not have your head tell you, well, I'm spending time with myself and all I do is belittle myself, you know, all that sort of stuff. Just be and connect with yourself. Look at the water rippling along. You know, you got great weather, you're telling me, endorse it. Just walk through nature, walk along the beach and just enjoy nature. It tends to take you to yourself and get rid of all that noise. And the more you do that, it gives you the strength to, yes, I can do this. And then you start to grow that inner you to be a bigger. It needs to be bigger. And that gives you that confidence and that belief in yourself. That's the key. Once you have the belief in yourself, it's amazing what you can achieve.
Yeah. We are enormously powerful as human beings.
We are. And it doesn't mean say you're going to grow next. I'm insecure today. Tomorrow I'll be I don't know, the Prime Minister or something. It doesn't have to mean by hierarchical stature. It just means whatever you're going to be, whatever you want to do, whatever impact you want to do, you can do that. You can be the person that creates that impact.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much. You can see the Dorset sun, right? See how red I am?
Yeah, actually, I did notice that. I was saying before, and I thought, I better mention, look, so I can see where you had your sunglasses, right? Yes, I know you got built-in.
I could have put the makeup on, but I thought, no, I'm just going to be.
No, just that's for me. Purely authentic.
Absolutely. Purely authentically burnt.
Purely authentic. Yeah, that's it. Authentically burnt. I'm an Australian. When we get burnt, man, do we get burnt. So we got to watch it. Yeah, I understand.
Ross, thank you so very much. I will, this is going to go out quite shortly after we record this. I will put the links into the post so that people can contact you if they are interested. Massive thank you from England to Singapore. And I look forward to be connected with you and just keep our conversation going for many months, many years, and hopefully maybe doing some collaboration at some point as well.
You never know. Look, you never know. You never know what's going around the corner, as I say.
Absolutely. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Michaela. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay.